Blue Lock. Quite a few things come to your mind when you hear that name. Intense, hype, rivalry, or perhaps ego. However, I doubt any of you had the word dialogue in mind, and if you did, it probably wasn't for the right reasons. Most of us can agree that Blue Lock is a pretty solid show, with intense and bombastic over-the-top characters, music, and animation, which dials up the hype to 11. However, lurking in the forefront of the show is a key piece that severely brings down the intensity and hype, and ultimately often pulls me out of the story. And that is the dialogue. To be frank, most of the time, it just sucks. Now I will say that I am not Japanese, nor do I speak Japanese, so I cannot discuss what the original dialogue is like, but whatever's being translated, most of the time, is just plain atrocious garbage. Now I think this is where Blue Lock tries to go too over the top, and ultimately fails at any type of subtlety, and instead turns into force-feeding the reader some of the cringiest and most unnecessarily stupid sentences I have ever heard, read, or imagined could even exist. It's so bad to the point where I am often getting secondhand embarrassment for the characters and just rolling my eyes, which for a show that relies on its hype is not a good thing. In the first episode, titled Dreams, one of the lines that keys us into how bad the dialogue will be is when Ego tells all the participants that if you, quote, want just to play friendly games with your buddies, then lock off. Now this line is fine as it introduces us to how over the top this anime will be and serves to dial up the suspense for the watcher. However, then Kira, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, says, and I kid you not, I'm quoting this word for word, "That's a terrible thing to say, take it back. There are many athletes on the Japanese team who I respect. We grew up watching them fight together as an 11. They are my superstars, you're wrong." Now, I don't know about you, but when I heard this, I was a bit confused, because these guys are introduced as being 16 years old, so right around grade 10 of high school. Now, maybe it's just me, but I'm sure if some grade 10 kid piped up what someone else was saying some athlete like Messi and Ronaldo stunk, and that kid said, "You can't say that, they are my superstar," he either 1, would have been laughed at, or 2, punched in the face so he could never open his mouth and say something so stupid again. I mean, it's just childish. What 16-year-old refers to anyone as their superstar? In concept, the idea behind what the character wants to say is fine, but the actual line, as well as the delivery by the actors, just makes it sound so pathetic. Now you might be saying that Kira was supposed to sound stupid and ignorant, since that is how he got eliminated by Isagi. And I would agree with you if they didn't make everyone else sound like morons as well, including Isagi, who is supposedly the smart game sense guy. This proves to me that the creator just has no idea how normal teenage kids speak to each other. Another example of this catastrophically bad dialogue is in episode 19, Dancing Boy. And yes, that is the name of the episode, even those are bad as well. In this episode, we finally get the long-awaited backstory for Bachida, who I did like up until this point in the show. Unfortunately, we get what might be the most underwhelming backstory in any anime ever, while also having it filled with the worst mother-son dialogue that has ever been written. Bachida's mother tells him that since the other kids don't care about soccer as much as him and can't keep up with him, it is, quote, because they can't feel what you feel, the voice of the monster inside you. She goes on to say how most people stop listening to the monster, but she still does, and later narrates to us that after that, Bachida decided to play with the monster inside of himself instead of the other kids. Now, I don't even think I need to explain for too long, because I mean, really, why on earth would you tell your son that his pursuit of his dreams occurs because of the monster only he can hear, and that the other kids can't hear it because they've let go of it? That not only is the worst analogy about chasing your dreams ever, but it also makes him essentially schizophrenic after, as he starts just playing with his imaginary friend instead of the other kids, causing him to, I assume, be lonely, and probably have a weird superiority complex as he views the other kids as tainted for letting go of their monsters. It's just utter cringe and really unbelievable and terrible narratively, so I don't understand why it was written in this way. I mean, seriously, it feels like AI wrote this with how inhuman the dialogue is in this show. there's another scene where Isagi says to Chigiri, "Wow, your legs can really motor." And of course, we can't forget when Baru calls him a donkey, and so he says, "I will devour Baru," which is most certainly meant to sound cold, but ends up being just plain stupid. Unless Isagi meant something else in that statement, in which case, that's ballsy, and kinda subtle. That's not too shabby. There are also scenes where they are eating food in the cafeteria, and these scenes at the least had to have been written by a computer, because they have the most basic, substandard animatronic dialogue I've ever witnessed, with lines like, "I owe half of that gold to you, so half of this meat belongs to you." I mean, really, how was this written? I don't understand. Alright, those last ones were bad, but now we're gonna get to what I consider to be the worst piece of dialogue in Blue Lock. Especially because it is shoved down our throats almost every time, and that, of course, is the numerous chemical reaction lines. Now, this is one where I am genuinely baffled at how the editor of the manga accepted this and published it. How many people are involved in the process of publishing a manga? A huge amount! How did nobody question the purpose and bombardment of such a terrible sounding pointless piece of garbage text? I cannot comprehend it. See, the other dialogue is over the top, but they still could get a pass because the story is over the top. So talking about monsters and superstars, I guess I can see it as okay from the publishers. But like, chemical reaction? Really? It doesn't sound cool, it's so awkward to read and hear, and it doesn't even make that much sense in the context of the story. I don't understand how on earth this was published. Now, there are countless examples of this, and I won't go through them all because they all boil down to the same thing. Whoever is monologuing, usually Isagi, unfortunately, is thinking about who they need to link up with in their next offensive play. And for some reason, every time, the player monologuing will question how they can make a chemical reaction happen with the other character. Now, every time I hear this, I just have to pause, sit back, and think about how the writer just thought this would be, like, cool. I don't understand why it was written because it's just pure cringe and it gives me such bad secondhand embarrassment. Please, I beg, if you are watching this video and you play soccer, let me know in the comments whether mid-play you are thinking about which player you are going to have a chemical reaction with next, because I don't understand how this was written other than assuming the creator has never played soccer in their life. I just find it unbelievable that in this day and age we are getting dialogue that is worse than SAO somehow. In a shonen? About soccer? This should be a slam dunk. How is it this bad? I just don't understand how this was written. Like, this is just bad. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm out of breath at this point, and I need to go contemplate whether I too have a monster inside of myself. So make sure to spread the word, let people know, share this video so we can inform everyone that Blue Lock has a dialogue problem.